let's look to the next. Let's look at the next technique, which is the scenarios. We did cover this before. Storytelling is it's basically about the different scenarios that are involved in the usage of the product. So sometimes it could be to do with how they would use the product, when they would use it, why they use it, the different contexts, and also it's about the scenarios of usage with respect to the environment, with respect to the timeline, their workflow. All of these need to be covered. So you should write given, when, then, as we were talking about the other day. For every user story, you can have different scenarios, the happy path scenarios. So for example, the ATM example I was trying to give you, in that context, you've got the ATM application running, you've got the users already started, well and good, fantastic. Then you inserted this, you got the card dispatched, everything is great. Yeah, you've done that. And you inserted this card, and the user started typing in the PIN code. And instead of entering the right PIN code, they entered the wrong PIN code. Then what happens? So did we think about it? Initially, we might not think about it, but then as and when we actually kind of develop this particular concept into a prototype and then into the actual product, we should think about all the possible scenarios of where that gets used, how that would get used, and why not. And if not about just giving the right data, but also wrong kind of data that gets fed in, wrong things that could potentially happen. That's where you can see the alternative scenarios, alternative flows, negative scenarios, not just the happy path, but also the other cases, other scenarios that can get used within this context. So you would need to understand all of those, write them down. That's where you use the concept of given, when, then. So given the user starts to enter the PIN code, when the user enters the wrong PIN, then try and show this, blah, 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 and show this, do this, whatever it is, how your system would react. Then show a message to the user, wrong PIN, let them enter maybe one more time, but gives that, please enter the right PIN code. You only have got 2 more chances or 2 more options, 2 more goes. After this, it'll get blocked, blah, blah, something like that. So you are actually trying to envisage a scenario which is not the happy path. And that's where it is important for us to identify all the outcomes, all the potential outcomes or uses of a particular product. And that's where you need to identify the exceptions, what are potential risks, what are the opportunities involved. And that's where I just would like to bring in one particular case that happened. So there's this gentleman who actually had been using his Ford car. This is actually a real-time incident. It happened really, I think that was about good 30 years ago. One of the new Ford Mustangs engines, they found that one of the cars actually had this strange problem that the cars stalled the engine. So, and then when the customer kept complaining that this car stalled, it's not really going forward, they found that it's true. It's funny because they actually did a bit of research. They sent in the team and they found that it's nothing to do with the car. This gentleman was actually going to the shop. He was parking the car, and then he kept it idle so that he went to quickly grab an ice cream from the shop and for his daughter. And whenever he does that, he finds that the car is they're actually seeing that, and they see that actually the car gets stalled. The engine is stopping. Why is the engine stopping? Apparently, they found that this person was actually looking for a strawberry flavor, which was kept much deeper into the shelves than the vanilla one. Whenever he goes pick up the vanilla, it was running all right. There's no problem. But when it is the strawberry flavor, they found that is the reason why this is happening is because nothing to do with the flavors or anything. As you might have guessed, as I was just mentioning, the strawberry flavors were kept much deeper inside the shelves. He has got to go all the way down to the aisles, find the strawberry flavor and bring back, whereas the vanilla flavor of that ice cream was actually put right on the front shelf. So which means he's spending more time to go through that stuff, the aisles, and then getting the product compared to this one, which is kept in front. So it's actually a case of not the engine or not the car, nothing to do with the car, nothing to do with the person, nothing with this, but the context of usage, and therefore they actually kind of rejigged and reshuffled the whole shop front in such a way that they actually kind of made sure the most sought after flavor is there within easy reach than actually the other way around. So this is more for the retail, for the shop arrangement than the Ford Mustang engine's performance. But of course, this is a real life incident that happened. So scenarios, it's all about scenarios when they use your product. So the same with ATM, for example, we were carrying forward from there. So we designed, for example, a fantastic application within this ATM. We got this machine, the Diebold or OMR, I think OMR or something is the other one. So we got this machines, the hardware is set, we've got this application loaded, got the cards printed, everything is fine, fantastic, and started using it. You notice that there are a lot of people who got canceled transactions in one particular area, which is a Nordic country. So it's in Norway. So they found that this Diebold people found that there are a lot of canceled transactions happening, especially in particular time frames. So then they did that kind of research again, they did observation, and we were talking about observation, why it's important. So they actually saw people using, because it's a Nordic country and it's very cold during the winters, they were using gloves back then. They were still having those woolen gloves and those thick ones because it's very cold, that really gets there. They were using they're coming out of the car straight, and then they're trying to enter the PIN code using that, and then enter everything using the glove on. And because of the fact that in here, most of the Western countries, including the Nordic countries, don't have enclosures. Again, that's an environment or the culture thing. In most of the South Asian countries, like India, for example, you've got specific ATM machines within, you've got a enclosure, you've got a security guard who is actually, taking care of the ATM machine and who's standing in front of the machine. Quite unlike that, most of the ATMs and the cash machines in the West and in the Nordic countries are outside. They don't have any enclosures. They're outside, and they're left for the elements. They're open. They're exposed to the elements, that is heat or cold or whatever. So these people, because of the fact that it's just outside, and then the people are using it, they don't want to take the gloves off and enter. So whenever they're trying to enter the pin, it's actually the thick glove, because of the fact that they're using gloves. The buttons, which are small and which were not designed for this particular situation, they're actually entering the wrong pin, and then the transactions are getting canceled because they were entering the wrong amounts, and then they canceled because they were not happy or something. So turns out this is the problem. Then they found that if this is the scenario of usage, if people are using it with gloves on, what does that mean? That means that the design needs to change. The interface of that particular thing with the slightly bigger ones, bigger keys need to be there, and then that's what gave version to the next version, where they actually brought out a different layout and different design, bigger buttons and things like that. Again, scenarios, observations. It's all about these things. Can't be told as a requirement to you to an analyst. It's about going out, trying to understand the scenarios of usage, observing people how they're using, and then coming up with the facilitation